Chipped ham and football. That's what Pittsburgh does. What's up, everybody? Brian Batko with you once again from the PG Sports Network, one of your Steelers beat writers at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thanks, as always, for joining us here on our Tuesday show among our lineup of podcasts and chats, along with the North Shore Drive, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Usually talking Steelers today, no different. The first chipped ham and football of the Aaron Rodgers era. Be a lot of firsts coming up here this week with mini camp beginning later today on the south side at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. And joining me to chat about it from NFL Network, Bucky Brooks, former player and scout in the league. Really looking forward to getting his perspective. Sometimes it's nice to get outside of the local Western PA bubble on topics as big as this. And we'll see what Bucky Brooks has to say about, does Aaron Rodgers still have some gas left in the tank? Is he really playing catch up after missing OTAs? We'll get into all of that and more, I am sure, on the show. Brought to you always by Pella. No better place to get new windows and doors installed in your home than from the fine folks at Pella, who can help you save on your energy costs year-round. Schedule your free in-home consultation with your local Pella windows and doors to find the right product for your home and your budget. Give them a call at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started planning on your new windows and doors installation with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. We'll be right back on the other side with Bucky Brooks talking Steelers. All right, and there he is, our guest for this week, Bucky Brooks. You can hear the Bucky Brooks Show on the Believe Podcast Network, and our friends over there. He's on the Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah, so you can hear him plenty of places, and anywhere you do hear him, he gives great insight, which is why we're having him on today. How's it going, Bucky?
Man, it's all good. How's everything?
Great. Really curious to to get you to weigh in on the latest with the Steelers. Kicking off mini camp. We're recording this Monday, but they're kicking off later today on the south side. And, all eyes are going to be on that new guy in number 8. New guy here, old guy in the NFL, oldest guy in the NFL. We'll get into some of what does Aaron Rodgers have left in the tank from your view. But do you put much stock in him missing, first couple of weeks of OTAs? I mean, what do you make of those who would say, he didn't really miss anything. That was all voluntary. Now he's here for mini camp, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I would say that it's not necessarily ideal. In a perfect world, you would like to have your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, available for most of the offseason to build the chemistry and the connectivity that you need to have. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot of moving parts in a new offense, DK Metcalf and some of the other guys that are moving into prominent roles. And you would like the quarterback to be there to kind of bridge the gap between the communication, the execution that you want to see over the course of training camp. And when you have someone like Aaron Rodgers, who has come in, who has traditionally played in a certain style offense, you want more time to kind of work through some of the kinks that you will have naturally. But look, it is what it is. And I think the coaching staff will have to figure out a way to kind of get them up to speed in training camp and those things. It's been done before, but it's certainly not an ideal situation that the Pittsburgh Steelers are in with the quarterback reporting so late.
And I also think, and I've been getting these questions a lot from our readers at the Post-Gazette and Steelers fans kind of, trying, I don't know, talk themselves into this or, at least rationalize it, try to get a little bit excited about it now that it's dragged on this long. But I do, I'm with you. I think too, if this experiment and possibly 1 year of it's going to be successful, I think it's going to be a lot about leaning in on Rodgers's command at the line of scrimmage, being able to make things happen quickly in the quick passing game. And a lot of that comes down to diagnosing stuff pre-snap, what he's seeing in opposing defenses. And I think, if that's kind of his primary superpower at this stage of his career, if you will, every day is valuable because, it's not like I watched every game last year, but I know you kind of revisited him recently since the news of him signing with the Steelers was made official. He's not going to be the guy that's bombing it deep to DK Metcalf regularly, right?
No, I mean, look, I think I'm so curious and fascinated by what Arthur Smith plans to do with this offense.
Yeah.
The Steelers even though they went out and got a big prize addition in DK Metcalf, this is a team that still wants to run the ball and play great defense. Aaron Rodgers coming in, does that change the equation? Because no matter what Aaron Rodgers says, he believes he's still that 4-time MVP who is worthy of being able to throw the ball all over the yard. Can you convince him to be more of a high-end game manager type than trying to play the game like a playmaker? And can you do it when he has some limitations from a mobility standpoint? Puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your offensive line to be able to hold up when you know that the quarterback is going to be in that same spot in the pocket each and every down. And it also puts a lot of pressure on you when you have an older quarterback who is used to doing things his way, maybe having to change some of his thought processes to be able to play in the Steelers offense that's been well established before he got there.
Yeah, and DK Metcalf, for as explosive as he is and a physical mismatch that he is, I mean, he's not really that get open quickly and move the chains guy. That's also that kind of be like, having a Ferrari in the mountains. That's not really what you want to use DK for either. Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, I mean, those guys are quick. They can uncover, but I think we need to see more from them to really feel good about them proving themselves as a possession receiver too. And I think that has a lot of Steelers fans wondering, is Aaron Rodgers going to go out and lobby for Alan Lazard, get him in here, or do the Steelers maybe already have that in a Pat Fryermuth, or maybe that's still what Robert Woods can do at this stage of the game? What do you make of the pieces around Aaron Rodgers who are already here?
I don't think they need to go and get like any more fellow Packers or his former teammates to make the offense click. They certainly have pieces in place right there. You talked about Roman Wilson, a guy that was taken by them last year, who should have an opportunity to have a more prominent role. Fryermuth being the tight end that can command all kinds of attention over the middle of the field. And then any of the other guys that can fill in. The Pittsburgh Steelers traditionally have never had a problem identifying and developing young pass catchers. And so I would trust the organization to do what they do, but I would try and find a way to try and see if we could get the team on a middle ground as it relates to Aaron Rodgers finding that chemistry and that connectivity with the pass catchers on the perimeter.
Well, do you think he will, Bucky? Because I was looking back today, and I think it's always funny to kind of open the old time capsule. And unless I'm mistaken, you were not a national analyst who thought he was going to have this great career rejuvenation with the Jets, and that thing was all going to click and fall into place, and the Rodgers revenge tour was going to go off without a hitch. Obviously injury played a big role in that with the 2023 Achilles, but I mean, him coming now to Pittsburgh for sort of the second act of the revenge tour, and for all we know, it might be a retirement tour for Rodgers if this is his final year in the league. I mean, does this change the Steelers' status as a contender at all in your eyes? Does this move the needle at all in the AFC North when you've got, the Bengals are clicking on offense? We know that. The Ravens are clicking on both sides of the ball. We know that. Do you reposition them or change the way that you think of them at all from a big picture standpoint?
No, I don't think it moves the needle a ton. I mean, I think it gives them an answer to their biggest question, but I think the answer has even more question that he brings about in Aaron Rodgers, 41 years of age. Look, there's been a steady decline in his performance and production since he last won that fourth MVP.
Yeah.
And when you think about how hard it is at an older age to turn things around, I'm not optimistic that he can do it unless, and here's the asterisk and the caveat that I have, if Aaron Rodgers submits and becomes the willing teammate to do all things with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the forefront, then they'll have a chance to win with him at quarterback. If he can display some servant leadership to take some of the pressure off of everyone, treating him as a different entity than the rest of the team, then he can have success, because ultimately Aaron Rodgers' success is going to be fueled by his teammates around him, because he no longer can carry a franchise by himself. So that means the running game, that means people that can catch the ball over the middle and make things happen. The secondary, the front line on defense, being able to get tackles for loss, sacks, forced fumbles, turnovers at all. Those things are going to be necessary, because for Aaron Rodgers, it's going to take a village to help him get over the top. He's not going to be able to do it just on the strength of his right arm.
Yeah, me personally, I didn't love some of the optics of even pursuing him from the jump if you're the Steelers. I mean, I think so many seasons in recent years, even since I came onto the beat for the PG in 2019, they've had this setup where it's kind of Ben Roethlisberger, and then it's everybody else in the locker room, and he's looked at to be QB1, leader,
Mhm.
torchbearer from the old Steelers, and all of that wrapped into one, and of course he was highly paid too at that time. And then last year with Russell Wilson coming in, it was a little bit of that too. There was a lot made of him. Not I mean he was a captain. The actual production certainly slipped by the end of the season. Now I wonder about just the dynamics of Aaron Rodgers coming in here, and they're going to be asking 52 other guys to kind of follow him, go as he goes. And it did take a while for him to commit, but maybe once he's in, he's all in, and the Steelers have that trust or that confidence in him that now they're getting all of him, even though at least from the outside the perception was he was kind of on the fence about whether to take this job or not.
Yeah, no, I think there are a few different things. One, Mike Tomlin taking a very active role as the leader of the team, making sure he establishes the pecking order within the team. All things run through him. The team is being built in his vision, how he views it, and they're going to stay true to that premise. And then I think the second part of that is just understanding that, look, this has to be about the team. This has to be about you sacrificing your own ego for the betterment of the squad. And if the squad excels with you playing a secondary role, it doesn't tarnish your legacy. You're still celebrated as a champion. You're celebrated as a two-time champion who won it with a legendary franchise. You'll go down as a blue blood, regardless of whether they did it really through you offensively or if you were just more of the complementary piece to the championship puzzle.
You think teams can still win that way in 2025? I mean, we look at recent years, Jalen Hurts, I guess you could kind of say has vaulted himself into another tier, but he also played lights out when the chips were
Mhm.
down in the biggest games. And of course, before that, Mahomes was running things as sort of the antithesis of what you just outlined there. I mean, he was putting the Chiefs on his back in a lot of those big games. So, I mean, and I almost look at, with Arthur Smith being the play caller and the OC here, I do wonder if the vision is a little bit of like, okay, we can kind of capture some of what you had with those Titans years where, you guys zigged a little while the rest of the league
Mhm.
zagged. You didn't have the Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar at quarterback, but the offense was really good, really efficient. Now, they had Derrick Henry. Can't leave that part out. But do you think that's still a viable path to hoisting the Lombardi trophy, or is it more of just maybe the Steelers can get over that playoff win hump, send Aaron out on his way better than he was with the Jets, and revisit this thing in 2026?
I think look, there's some of that to it, right? I think there's a short term agreement where you're thinking, okay, Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback through this year, and we need to find or position ourselves in a spot where we can get one of the top quarterbacks next year, because next year's quarterback class is very very solid. Just taking a look see at it
You're
over the
in on
course of
it
the
like a
summer.
lot of people.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go crazy. But I would say like there's some
Yeah,
talented and intriguing players. I'm not going to say it's 1983 and we can get all these Hall of Famers, but
right.
there's some intriguing options that could be available. I think anyway, regardless of how you look at it, every year is its own individual year when it comes to the team building process. Some years you have to go about it a little differently. Some years you have the pieces in place from a draft and develop situation where it's able to go. This year, I would say that the Steelers have tried to do it the right way, but now the biggest piece, the quarterback, is coming from the outside, and he's coming from a situation where he has always operated in a certain way. And, go back to the Green Bay way, spending like 18 years there, going to the Jets, basically transforming them into Packers East.
Or
Like he
trying
only
to at
knows,
least. Yeah.
yeah, he only knows how to play a certain way. Where can the Pittsburgh Steelers meet him and objectively create a middle ground that kind of satisfies him as a player, but also allows the coach to have the power to call the game the way that he seems fit? That to me is the most important relationship in the building.
And I know you do often look at it through the team building lens from a scouting perspective. Sounds like you like what the Steelers and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin are doing apart from the QB position, and I guess trying to pretty much put those guardrails up for the scenario in which 2026 draft rolls around, they've got some resources and capital at their disposal. They can drop a young guy in there, and whether he plays right away or doesn't, there's a solid supporting cast around him. Is that kind of how you view this team from 30,000 feet?
Yeah, that's how I viewed it. I remember, look, a little over a week ago, I talked about the Steelers being able to win with Mason Rudolph, and how
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph finished the season in 2023, winning 3 games, having a real solid passer rate. I think it was like 118. And even though they didn't win in the playoffs, it showed that, look, man, in Pittsburgh, the way the team is constructed, defense heavy, able to keep the score down, they can run the football, they have some explosive weapons in the backfield. When now it's about being able to take the game into the fourth quarter, then finding a way to win. It's not what any fan wants to hear, but there's a lot of success in being able to play a little bend but don't break, a little grind it out, a little rock'em sock'em robot football, and find ways to win games late in the contest.
Yeah, I mean, you said it kind of at the outset. It's going to be a big task for these tackles. Broderick Jones, not his first year as a starter, but his first year starting at left tackle. Troy Fautanu will be his first year as a starter, but both first rounders. Steelers have to, I guess, trust their evaluations there in the pedigree and hope those two can get the job done to give Rodgers plenty of time to slice and dice from that pocket, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you take guys in the first round, you believe in their talent, and even though they haven't popped right away, the Steelers are more of what I call a slow cook franchise when it comes to putting their young guys out there. They
No
don't
doubt.
put
Yeah.
them out there. They don't overhype them. They let them develop quietly behind closed doors, and then you look up and you're like, oh, the seniors, the guy's starting, the rookie starting on the island, or you're doing those things when it comes to young players having prominent roles. But it has always worked for them, and when you are a what we call a homegrown franchise, a team that is a small market team, a team that really has to get it out the mud when it comes to draft and develop. That's how you operate. Like there's a proven system in place for getting young guys onto the field. It is one of the things that they are trying to make sure they get back to because it's very cost prohibitive to try and build your team in free agency.
Well, in that vein, I will. Last thing I'll ask you is this: do you have a breakout candidate in mind for this team for 2025? Whether it's one of those young O linemen on the offensive side of the ball, or somebody from this defense who, I mean, based on all the ground we just covered in this conversation, that unit is still going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting if this team's going to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, I think the guy who has to take his game up a notch would be Joey Porter Jr. And the reason why is when I look at that division and I look at the pass catchers that are littered throughout the division, the Steelers have tended to continue to kind of be a little bit like Dick LeBeau-ish in terms of like zone dogs and pressure and eyes on ball and see ball, get ball when it comes to the defense. This year, they may be forced to play a little more man-to-man, a little more sticky coverage on some of the premier pass catchers. Can Joey Porter Jr. hold up his end of the bargain as I'll say this, like the number one corner for the Steelers? When you have these other guys and you bring in Darius Slade to kind of help and mentor and teach and also contribute as a sub defender, you're doing that to really show the young player how to take his game up a notch, how to play at a Pro Bowl level. I think this is good, but he is the name to watch when we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025.
Yeah, I think they are going to ask a lot out of him, and it will be interesting to see that dynamic because Slay's like to follow people around too in his career, but he's getting up there as well. This could be his last season, just as it could be Aaron Rodgers' last season, and I think those are two of the more all-in moves that the Steelers have made this year. Or I shouldn't say all in; those were the two kind of short-term win now moves that the Steelers made in an offseason where they've otherwise kind of looked to the future and try to do one of these Rams-ish, Bills-ish retool on the fly. Of course, with the big difference being they don't have the long-term answer or the franchise QB that those two do. So, well, hey, Bucky, really appreciate it, man. Is there anything else you want to promote or tell our viewers about before I get you out of here?
No, 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 man. Thanks so much for having me on. Make sure everyone kind of checks out all the cool stuff that we're doing and Believe. Like, make sure you rate, review, subscribe to that podcast, the Bucky Brooks Show, and then also the other podcast, Move the Sticks, with myself and Daniel Jeremiah. All kinds of cool stuff that we're always doing over there. So check us out.
Yeah, and I hope you get some well-deserved time off now. Obviously, this is the portion of the NFL calendar after this week where a lot of the players, coaches, scouts, and even us in the media get to take a little bit of a breath, get some time away, relax, enjoy some vacation. and hit it hard again in July at training camp, right?
Man, looking forward to it. Look, it'll be here before you know it. Thanks for having me on, man. It's been fun.
Yep. All right. There he goes. Bucky Brooks. Appreciate him coming on. Like I said, always good to get his insights. And we've been so wrapped up in your storyline here that love bouncing it off of a guy who doesn't have a dog in this fight, calls it like he sees it for all 32 in the NFL. So we will have plenty more content for you. This is really just the beginning. We are we're really going up the first hill of the Phantom's revenge here in what could be a roller coaster of a season. And we're looking down now at that big first drop. And that'll be, I think, when Aaron Rodgers actually shows up in the flesh with a Steelers practice uniform on. They normally wear white, so that's what you will see him in when the images start coming out any minute now from the team's veteran minicamp on the South Side. I will be there. Ray Fittipaldo, Chris Carter will be there. I think Jerry Dulac might be on U.S. Open coverage. There's a lot going on right now in Pittsburgh sports, and especially in the world of the Steelers and golf locally. So I know us, and everybody at the PG, we've been all over it. Both of those two areas of interest for our readers and our viewers. So whether you're watching us in Pittsburgh or whether you're watching us around the country, around the world, thanks as always for tuning in to Chipped Ham in Football. I'm Brian Batko, and I've got one more message to get out to you guys, a new one before we sign off here. It is Father's Day on Sunday, in case you missed it. Make this Father's Day memorable by celebrating your dad in his unique style with Boss. Whether he's a trendsetter, if he's into the classics, or somewhere in between, Boss offers timeless pieces that perfectly complement his individuality. Boss Menswear has reached icon status for its tailoring, but offers more than just the perfect suit. Boss is now open at Ross Park Mall here in the North Hills suburbs of Pittsburgh with a selection of menswear pieces. So check them out if you're still scrambling for a last-second Father's Day gift. This has been another episode of Chipped Ham in Football. Appreciate you checking us out. We'll be back with plenty more shows on the PG Sports Network. See you then.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.